Tonight on One America News.
More than 5 years ago, I said that while I was not the first president to take up this cause, I was determined to be the last.
President Obama defending the Affordable Care Act ahead of a Supreme Court ruling which could potentially strip millions of Americans of their health care coverage. Plus, top TSA officials testify before a Senate panel after the agency reportedly failed to identify 70 workers with links to terrorism. Then, that New York prison break, the search intensifying tonight for the two convicted murderers who escaped as authorities are questioning a possible accomplice. And later, after staying silent for days, former House Speaker Dennis Hastert makes his first court appearance on charges related to the sexual abuse allegations he's facing. We'll tell you how he pleaded. Today is Tuesday, June 9th, and tonight you're watching One America's Evening News. Good evening and welcome. I'm Cassie Leuffen, and if you couldn't tell, we have quite a lot to get to tonight. We turn first to Texas. You likely saw the viral video showing a Texas police officer's response to a fight at a pool party last week. Many said that his actions were a sign of excessive force, and tonight we can confirm for you that he has resigned from his position. Officer Eric Casebolt stepped down from McKinney Police Department today after almost 10 years on the force. At a press conference today, the department's police chief said Casebolt was out of control during that incident, and the department does not support his actions. The news of his resignation comes tonight after the department placed him on administrative leave. New developments, meanwhile, on the Dennis Hastert case. Hastert pleading not guilty to allegations he concealed withdrawals of hundreds of thousands of dollars from his bank account and then lied to the FBI about that money. Prosecutors say the former House Speaker was trying to cover up sexual misconduct with a male student decades ago by paying him $3.5 million in hush money. At the time, Hastert was a high school teacher and wrestling coach. He has now hired Thomas Green as his attorney, who represented multiple officials during the Watergate investigation as well. Hastert faces 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. Meantime, top TSA officials testified in front of Senate lawmakers following major airport security lapses. A recent report by the Department of Homeland Security shows the TSA failing to identify more than 70 airport workers with links to terrorism. The agency is blaming the problem on its lack of full access to terror watch list data. Lawmakers, for their part, are calling for sweeping changes to the TSA.
On the one hand, we're looking for 100% security to keep airline and not only just airline, but you know, all public transportation 100% safe and secure. On the other hand, we're looking for complete efficiency.
The TSA says it will address the employee screening issues by the end of this year. The report comes 1 week after TSA agents failed to detect prohibited items like weapons during internal tests at several major U.S. airports. And turning now to President Obama's signature health care law, we watched Obama defend the Affordable Care Act today, just days before the Supreme Court is set to hand down a ruling on this very controversial law. The president spoke at the annual conference of the Catholic Health Association. Take a listen.
The Affordable Care Act worked out better than some of us anticipated. Nearly 1 in 3 uninsured Americans have already been covered. More than 16 million people, driving our uninsured rate to its lowest level ever.
As far as the scope here, nearly 6 million Americans stand to lose their health insurance subsidies if the court backs a case that challenges this law. The justices will issue a ruling by the end of the month. To the House we go next. The House is scheduled to vote on a $55 billion GOP funding bill for the Department of Transportation, Housing and Urban Development. The measure provides a $1.5 billion increase from the agency's current 2015 spending levels, but it is almost $10 billion less than President Obama's request and has therefore drawn a veto threat from the White House. Democrats have also criticized this particular bill, saying Republicans have attached a number of non-budgetary issues to it, such as restrictions on normalizing relations with Cuba. A Senate subcommittee, meanwhile, approves a spending bill that would allocate $576 billion toward the defense budget. And this is amid criticism over how the bill handles spending caps. Over $18 billion would go toward shipbuilding programs. Nearly $33 billion would go toward medical services for personnel and their families. One America's Stephen Covella has more on the bill and the big controversy surrounding it.
The Defense Appropriations Bill would give the Pentagon about a $490 billion budget this year and put roughly $86 billion into a separate Overseas Contingency Operations account. The contingency account, also known as the Emergency War Fund, was created in 2001 and is not subject to spending caps. In order to meet this year's budgetary recommendations, more money was allocated to the contingency account. However, some lawmakers, as well as President Obama, have criticized adding more money to the contingency account, saying it's a ploy to get around the spending cap on the defense budget. But others say critics are only raising concerns in hopes of getting spending caps on non-defense budgets changed. In an op-ed published on Politico Tuesday, Senator John McCain said using the contingency account is not ideal, but threats to block or veto the bill are counterproductive. The proposed bill is scheduled to be considered by the full Senate Appropriations Committee on Thursday. Stephen Covella, One America News.
There were some tense moments at the White House today as a West Wing had to be evacuated over a bomb threat. Just after 2 p.m. local time, the Secret Service ordered all press out of the briefing room, and tourists were told to stay off the North Lawn. While no specific reason was immediately given, White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest later said a phoned-in bomb threat to police was to blame for this. The area was evacuated as a precautionary measure, so the Secret Service could then sweep it.
Fortunately, here at the White House, the Secret Service maintains the resources that are necessary to quickly make the room safe and make sure that it's safe for all of us. And they did that quickly, and now we're ready to restart.
20 minutes later, and journalists were allowed back into the area. This was the first time, though, an evacuation has happened during a televised press briefing. Ernest went on to say President Obama was at the White House at the time of the evacuation.
We need to stand in recess for this committee hearing. We have apparently the Capitol Police is clearing this, so we should be locked down and stay in place.
No, we're clearing the floor.
Okay, we're clearing the floor. So if you could order in an orderly fashion, please exit as quickly as possible. Thank you.
If you're thinking another evacuation, you're absolutely right. Capitol Police lifted a temporary evacuation on several floors of the Dirksen Senate office building today after receiving a bomb threat there. Police say the building is now all clear after nothing hazardous was found. We know they entered the building where the Homeland Security Committee was wrapping up a meeting on the TSA. Capitol Police were simultaneously investigating a suspicious bag in a separate courtyard, but that turned out to be a lunch cooler. And now, as the search continues for those 2 convicted murderers who escaped from a New York prison, authorities are questioning an employee who could have possibly provided the power tools that these men used in their escape. Reports say Joyce Mitchell was removed from her post as industrial training supervisor after she was questioned earlier this week. Authorities are still investigating if it's possible that a personal relationship with one of the convicts could have prompted the 51-year-old to aid in the men's escape. Sandy Cazell has more for us on the ongoing manhunt, including reaction from residents.
There are a lot of questions in upstate New York about how 2 convicted murderers managed to break out of a maximum security prison. Authorities say David Sweat and Richard Matt obtained power tools to cut their way through a steel wall, breaking through brick and cutting in and out of a steam pipe. All this while hiding the dirt, the dust, and the noise. Officials want to know if anyone helped the pair escape and say they could be anywhere. Local residents say they aren't too concerned.
I believe those guys are probably long gone, and you feel kind of safe here.
If we could find bin Laden, we could find these guys like no problems.
Authorities around Buffalo are very familiar with Matt.
He was a hell on wheels, I'll tell you. He was a hell on wheels.
Matt was convicted of killing and dismembering his boss in the Buffalo area in 1997.
We have no clue where Matt's whereabouts are, but never say never. I mean, he could, try to make it back here.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says investigators looking for accomplices are focused on civilian employees and contractors who are doing renovations on the prison.
Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, if you're wondering where in the world he is in Germany for what analysts term as his last public act before possibly announcing his presidential candidacy next week. In the country, Bush delivered an address at an economic conference saying if he were to become president, he would increase action to counter what he sees as Russian aggression.
Ukraine, a sovereign European nation, must be permitted to choose its own path. Russia must respect the sovereignty of all of its neighbors. And who can doubt that Russia will do what it pleases if aggression goes unanswered?
Bush didn't specifically detail how he would allow Ukraine to choose its own path. While in Germany, he will meet privately with the U.S. ambassador and Germany's finance minister. He's also then going to visit Poland and Estonia. Turning now to Syrian airstrikes as they have reportedly killed more than 60 people in the northwest as the country's bloody civil war rages on. Rudy Bakhtiar has the latest, but first I do want to warn you that some of the images you're about to see are graphic.
Confusion, panic. Seconds after massive airstrikes hit a neighborhood in Idlib, an injured baby is rushed away for medical attention. A frenzied search for loved ones in the rubble. These images were uploaded to a social media website. Reuters cannot independently verify their content, but local monitoring groups say at least 67 people were killed by government airstrikes both here in Idlib and in the city of Homs. These bloody scenes have become all too familiar since the Syrian uprising began in the spring of 2011. President Bashar al-Assad's forces have been trying to crush a rebellion by various groups trying to bring his government down. But it's become a war of attrition. The rebels show no signs of backing down, and neither do Assad's forces, in a civil war that has already claimed more than 200,000 lives.
Just ahead on One America News this evening, an undercover NYPD detective is cleared of the most serious charges relating to the 2013 biker gang brawl, what he was charged with after the break. Welcome back. The only freshwater natural sanctuary in the United States was starting to feel like a big sanctuary in a small space, and so now it will expand to nearly 10 times its current size. The Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary in northern Michigan will increase from 450 square miles to 4,300 square miles. Big expansion, and the expansion was approved last year and is based on several years of research by NOAA. Thunder Bay is accessible to divers, swimmers, boaters, and paddle boarders who can view some of the wrecks in shallow, clear water. Sanctuary officials estimate the expanded territory doubles the number of shipwrecks that can be explored to roughly 200.
It allows us to not only be able to use the resources it has here, but it connects us kind of worldwide so that we've got this worldwide connection with researchers and we can collaborate on all kinds of different projects, and it really just opens up the world to the classroom.
Officials in and around the Lake Michigan community of Sheboygan, Wisconsin are now seeking to establish a sanctuary there. And get ready for some Russian cars rushing by, and they're electric. That's right, electric cars are creating quite a buzz on the streets of Moscow with help from a shipping company, an electric car race, and local authorities. DHL Express, an international shipping company based in Germany, has introduced several small electric cars to use on deliveries. Moscow is the host of Formula E racing, an annual electric car race, and city authorities have made parking around Moscow free for the environmentally friendly cars. However, even with efforts being made here to make the cars more popular, individual owners say there are still just too many obstacles for them to become widely popular.
While last year it was still possible to buy a car paying zero customs duties, now the owner of an electric car has to pay all the taxes in full. Moreover, the government is not making any real steps to support electric transport.
The Russian government website says the main objective of the Formula E championship is to bring attention to the ecology of the city and popularization of the electric cars. An amazing new video from NASA offers the first ever 3D glimpse at the dwarf planet Ceres. This video was made by compiling 80 different pictures taken by the Dawn spacecraft during its study of the asteroid belt. The images were captured as the probe hovered over 8,000 miles above the protoplanet. Some were taken much closer, though, at a distance of only 3,000 miles. The tiny planet is just 600 miles wide and was left over from when the solar system was forming. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall when all that action was going on up there, or a star in the solar system, more like it. We're out of time tonight, but I want to thank you so much as always for watching. I'm Cassie Leuffin on Twitter at Cassie Leuffin. Good night.